Hello, I'm Jenna, and this is Learn Academic English. On this channel, I help English learners take their English to a higher level, especially for school and work. In today's lesson, I'm going to teach you exactly how to use the phrase "in fact." This is a super common phrase that we use very often, both in speaking and writing. But in today's lesson, you're going to learn more about different ways that you can use it and two slightly different meanings of this phrase. Before we get into that, I'd like to remind you to please give this video a like if you find it helpful. Don't forget to leave a comment and practice with me below, and subscribe if you would like more lessons like this one. And I would like to let you know that I offer memberships here on my channel if you would like to have more connection with me every week. Plus, you can take live online classes with me. Check the description box below for more information. Okay, let's get into in fact. The first use of in fact is to add detail to what you said before, especially if it's something surprising. Now, it doesn't have to be something surprising, but that is often how it is used. And in this way, we use in fact to emphasize. For example, I know that basketball player really well. In fact, we just hung out last week. So you can see that the second sentence is being used to add detail and to emphasize the idea that was stated in the first sentence. And in a way, the second sentence is a bit surprising. Another example, my favorite TV show of 2023 was The Bear. Critics loved it too. In fact, it just won several awards at the Emmys. So again, here in the last sentence, you can see that in fact is being used to add detail to the idea that was stated before. We'll get into more detail about how you can use in fact in the sentence, but let's look at the second use now. It is to show that the truth is the opposite of what you have just said. Now, in this way, in fact is similar to the meaning of actually or in truth. For example, the repair person told me that it would be cheap, but in fact, it cost me $500. Okay, so you can see that the second part is adding some information to show that the first part is not true. Next, I want to show you the phrase in actual fact. Now, this is not as common as in fact, but sometimes you can hear it. And in actual fact is used in the second way to show that what was just said is not true, to state the opposite of what was just said. For example, people often think that I don't work much due to my flexible work schedule. But in actual fact, I put in over 40 hours a week. So here you can see that in actual fact is being used to emphasize that the information in the first part is not true and to show what is true in the second part. Another way to say in fact is as a matter of fact. But this is not that common and it's quite long. Some people might say that it's unnecessarily wordy. So you can just stick with in fact, but if you hear this, it basically has the same meaning and use as in fact. Okay, so now that we know the two uses of in fact and we've seen some examples, let's take a look at where we can put in fact in the sentence. So the most common place where we put in fact is at the beginning of a clause. In this way, it is used the same way as however or therefore or to be honest, like an adverbial conjunction. When we do that, we put in fact and a comma. For example, this is a fantastic movie. In fact, it's one of my favorites. Now we can put in fact at the beginning of the sentence, followed by a comma, or we can use a semicolon, in fact, and a comma. just like we do with however or therefore. Now, I also want you to know that we can put in fact at the start of a clause even when there are other words. So, for example, we could say, some people think this is an easy job, but in fact, it's quite difficult. Or, check this one out. Some people think this is an easy job when in fact, it's quite difficult. So here you can see that in fact can go at the beginning of the clause, but after the word when. This is a very common use of in fact. Okay, number 2. Like adverbs, in fact can go between the subject and main verb or between the auxiliary verb and main verb. For example, despite his well-known wealth, he did not, in fact, inherit the estate until he was in his 70s. So here you can see that in fact goes between the auxiliary verb, did, and before the main verb, inherit. The next one is that it can go after the verb be, just like adverbs, in fact, can go after the verb be. For example, let me show you that this is, in fact, the correct way to do it. And finally, it can also go at the end of a sentence. For example, that sounds rather simple, but it's quite difficult, in fact. Now, let me explain that the last one at the end of the sentence would be more often in speaking. We wouldn't really use that in writing. If you want to use in fact in writing, the easiest thing to do is just put it at the beginning of the clause. That's the most common way that it's used, and it's probably the easiest way because you don't have to think too much about it. But you should also know that sometimes you can put it before the main verb, or if the verb is be, you put it after the verb. And when people are speaking, they'll use it all over the place, including at the end of a sentence. So I would love for you to practice in fact with me. I'll leave some examples in the description box below. And go ahead and make your own sentences and leave a comment. I'll be sure to give you feedback. I hope to see you back here again soon. And as always, let me know if you have questions. Take care.